So we'll start with, this is the question for the board in general, I'm not sure who it's from. Cross Scotland had no AGM in 2009. Is this strictly legal, and were the accounts for that year audited? Now, I can answer that, but does a member of the board want to do it? Answer. Okay, we didn't have an AGM in 2009. Legally, we're constituted as a charity, and as long as we have an AGM within 18 months of the last financial period, then that's absolutely fine. And the accounts were indeed audited. In fact, that's the accounts that you saw today. Sorry, is that feedback? Sorry. The other question is with regards to the C word, and I think this might be for the board, but I think I can probably answer this as well. Is Cross Scotland representing the makers? The C word, there's a consensus of opinions found that the destruction of valuable and valued artworks, which I presume means within the C word itself, is meaningless and upsetting. Can anyone comment? Well, I suppose I should start. If the board want to add to it, then that's absolutely fine. Firstly, as I said in my presentation, the name of the campaign was inspired by comments in the Makers survey. Secondly, as you know, we currently have 50% board members made up of business expertise and 50% board members made up of the making community. So the board meeting immediately before the AGM in 2008, we announced our plans to the board, and at the time, I'm sorry to name check, but at the time the board members who were representing the making community were of course Steve, our chair, Alison Bell, who's with us today, Nicola Burns, who unfortunately isn't, but is still on our board, Joanne Carr and Anna King, who unfortunately has stepped down from the board, but was all there, and the entire board, both business professionals and makers, approved it, and of course it is the role of those makers to represent the making community. And I guess the other thing is that we've only had one complaint from the making community. We had an email, a very long email from a maker living in the Highlands in March of 2009, long before we actually even started to fund the campaign, let alone film it. And the maker told me that she felt very strongly about the name of the campaign. She felt that it was disrespectful to the sector, and that she felt that she had to tell me this. We had a 2-hour conversation, almost 2 hours over the phone, and she didn't, I think we kind of met in the middle a little bit, but I asked her if she met anybody else who didn't like it, then to come to me. I spoke to her, she was involved in one of the membership consultations, and she said that she still thinks it's a bad marketing campaign, but it's her opinion, and she's very interested in working with us in the campaigns. So I guess what this comes down to is this card, which we obviously have just launched today, and our values. You know, we want to be creative, we want to be able to be brave, but equally we do want to talk to you, like I said. So if you aren't very happy with us, tell us, because it might have been a very different story, the presentation I gave today. Just two very quick anecdotes. What the C word has given us. I called Lisa only 2 weeks ago, I'll talk about last minute, to ask Lisa to come to the AGM. We weren't sure we were going to be able to fund expenses, etc. And Lisa said, it's tight, I would love to. I'll let you know over the weekend. And the next night, Lisa bumped into Mike Holmes, who runs a gallery called Volvo Da Vinci in San Francisco. And Lisa said that she'd been invited over to Cross Scotland to speak at the AGM. We said, oh, you must go, Cross Scotland's amazing, you should go and see the girls, and it was lovely. We wouldn't have had that 2 years ago, we wouldn't have had that a year ago. And the second thing is that we have our C-word badges. I wear mine whenever I'm representing the Scottish sector. And I wore mine to the Minneapolis conference. I did that usual thing where you leave a room, you pretend that you're being very important, and really you're texting your mum saying, I don't know anybody. They're all going for drinks, I don't know anybody. And somebody came up to me to ask for directions to the drinks and recognised my badge and said, you know from Cross Scotland, the C word? I said yes, and she shouted some people over. It was a lady from the Siena Gallery, New York, and people were coming over, there was high-fiving, congratulations on a great campaign. By the end of the conference, a couple of makers and people from the American craft sector had asked for the C word to close I'm not sure that you're aware of this, but to close the conference. And the disc was actually ready to go, but for those of you who are aware of Garth Clark, he made quite an interesting presentation overran massively, and we ended up unfortunately being able to show it. But that's the kind of thing that the C word is giving us, and as far as I'm aware, it is representing the sector. I don't know whether, sorry to pick on Lara or Julia.
Can I just make a comment?
Thank you.
Just sort of in defence of a little comment there about smashing of work. And as it was my pot, as it was my pot that got smashed, I've had many conversations about this, because some people have responded by saying to me, you know, that's just awful, how could you let them do that? But the thing is, that was an advert. The advert was visual film, and it was an incredibly arresting image, and that was really, really important for it to be done. So although, you know, it maybe looked destructive, the thing is it worked. It really caught people's attention, and also I think it kind of demonstrated the sort of fragility of craft, and that, you know, we can't, you know, the kind of smashing, I think, was sort of a symbol of kind of having to look after our craft makers and craft work. So, you know, I think we shouldn't be too defensive about that, because I think it was, you know, an important thing to do, and it was what made a big part of the advert really watchable, because it was so shocking.
Thank you, Laura. The final part of the question, it's actually in 3 parts, is there's an increasing feeling of isolation among the makers. Has the remit of Craft Scotland altered? Does Baldwin want to take this question? Just quickly.
I think that the agreement probably has changed a bit. I think that it's now an audience development agency, it's an organisation, it's progressive. The fact that everybody is approaching Emma and asking her to come on this panel, especially the World Crafts Organisation, I think that's incredible. And the Crafts Council speaking to us and saying, you know, we want something that's new. Collect, you were the only stuff, weren't you, that had actual new images up. It wasn't just all flat pieces. I think that's, everything's progressing, and I think we have to progress with it, and I think that's exactly what we're doing. So, I think the board are all behind you on it, and hopefully the sector are too. But you will always get negative people, and as you say, that was one negative complaint that you've had up there that was positive. So, I shouldn't worry about that.
And just to add to that, if makers are, in fact, anybody who's in the sector is feeling isolated, as I keep saying, please talk to us, feedback to us. We've got more channels of communication open than ever before, from our very low-tech Ask It basket through to online things. So please do. We will listen, and we will take your views into consideration. But when you're having one complaint against, you know, almost 2,000, yes, you're doing a fab job, it's very hard to think that we are doing a bad job.